Hello there. I love eggs. I love having eggs for breakfast all year round. And those of us who have our very own chickens kind of expect that we can have eggs all year round. After all, they're available in the shops all year round, so why shouldn't that happen with our chickens too? But after a few months, people often find that they're getting fewer and fewer eggs, and maybe even none at all. And they start to wonder, well, why can't I have eggs all year round, just like the supermarkets? So maybe we go searching on the internet and we find lots of advice about what you can do to feed your chickens to guarantee that they will lay all year round. Things like cayenne pepper, apple cider vinegar, garlic, parsley, marjoram, fennel, ginger, sprouted grains or fermented grains, feeding extra protein twice a day, something called magic water. Now, most of these things are not going to do your chickens much harm, and in some circumstances they might even be of benefit. Cayenne pepper is well tolerated by chickens because they can't taste the capsaicin, and it will make their egg yolks more yellow. But the idea that cayenne pepper might increase their egg-laying production has been shown to be false. I've recently done a whole video about garlic, but it won't magically make your hens lay eggs all year round. Sunflower seeds and mealworms and other insects have lots of protein, and since eggs are made mainly of protein, then some protein is obviously important in a chicken's diet. Many herbs, like parsley, contain vitamins which are as important to chickens as they are to us humans. Sprouting grains makes them easier for your chickens to eat and digest. And fermenting grains can make some nutrients more bioavailable. I have a whole video about fermenting chicken feed. As for egg booster, that's one I definitely do not advise because it clearly states on the label that it contains antibiotics. So it seems like the incredible claims are just that, not credible. To be sure, you should keep your chickens healthy by providing them with a balanced and adequate diet, plenty of fresh, clean water, protection from the weather and other stress, and all that will help them to lay well. But there are also a few extra things you can do to increase your chances of having yummy eggs for breakfast every day. Perhaps the single most effective thing is what kind of chickens you choose to keep. There's a reason why all the chickens in a commercial egg farm look identical. These are the commercial hybrids, whose genetics have been scientifically selected for unrivaled egg production as young hens. I have a video about commercial hybrids versus heritage breeds of chicken if you want more details. There are lots of reasons to choose heritage breed chickens rather than commercial hybrids, and if you still want plenty of eggs, then which breed you choose will make a difference. Of course, those breeds that tend to go broody a lot will end up not laying many eggs because they don't lay while they're sitting on eggs or caring for baby chicks. This is only part of the reason why some breeds, like the Leghorns, are well known for being much better layers than other breeds. But the particular line is at least as important as the breed. For example, in some countries, Faverolles chickens have a reputation for being great layers, but here in New Zealand they struggle to lay 100 eggs a year. Even some lines of Leghorns have been bred for generations to look perfect on the show bench, but with no consideration of their egg production, and they may fail to live up to their reputation. It's certainly possible to choose heritage breed chickens that lay well if you ask questions about the breeders local to you. One of the main things that influence your chickens to lay eggs or to stop laying is the amount of daylight each day. Nature intends chickens and other birds to lay eggs in the spring as the days are starting to get longer, so that the chicks are hatched and growing through the summer when food is plentiful. In autumn, as the days get shorter, that tells the chickens it's time to stop laying eggs, so they don't have baby chicks hatching in winter when seeds are naturally scarce. Of course, that doesn't really suit us humans. We want eggs all year round, please. And so those commercial hybrids have been bred to be disconnected from that natural annual cycle. But the heritage breeds are still very influenced by the number of hours of daylight each day. So apart from changing the chickens, we can change the light. I have a couple of videos about controlling the light in the chicken coop to influence laying. One on how to do it, and one about how to decide whether you want to do that for your chicken coop. The other way we can use our knowledge of the changing daylight hours and the influence that has on egg laying is by choosing the time of year that we hatch the chicks that will become our laying hens. Typically, a heritage breed chick that hatches in late spring will grow and mature over summer and autumn, and then wait out the dark months of winter and come into lay for the first time the following spring. So she could be 8, 9, 10, even 11 months old before she lays her first egg. By then, her body is well mature. She has great reserves of xanthophylls and other carotenoids to put into her egg yolks, and of calcium to make strong egg shells. She's in her prime, and all primed to lay well, just the way nature intended. But if we don't want to wait 10 months for our chicks to come into lay, we can hatch them at a different time of year. Take a look at this graph of 56 chicks that I hatched, where I know how old they were when they laid their first egg. Yes, I do have this information because I keep excellent records. Now, there's a variety of different breeds here, but you can see a general pattern that chicks that were hatched in late winter came into lay in the middle of that next summer, even though they were only 5 or 6 months old. On the other hand, chicks that were hatched just a little later in spring waited until the following spring to lay, by which time they were on average 9 months old. The chicks hatched in late summer or autumn also came into lay the following spring, but of course they were younger than the chicks hatched early the previous spring. In other words, you can expect a young hen to start laying in spring if she's at least 5 months old by then. A pullet who's younger than 4 months old in her first springtime is not going to lay until the next spring. So if you want eggs from your chickens as soon as possible after hatching them, rather than hatching in spring, hatch in autumn or even winter. Of course, this is not a foolproof system. As you can see here, Mutti was 9 months old before she laid her first egg, even though her sister Barnevelders hatched on the same day started at 5.5 months old. It also relies on being able to get fertile eggs in late winter. But if you can do this, it's worth a try. Alternatively, wait until late summer, and you'll only have to wait 7 or 8 months for your chickens to start to lay. The first time your young hens come into lay, they might very well start laying in spring and then lay all the way through winter and into the following spring. This first year is the only time they will do this. In future years, your heritage hens are most likely to take what I call a winter holiday, stopping laying in autumn to molt and grow new feathers, then coming back into lay the following spring. And with every year that your hen ages, she will stop laying a little earlier and come back into lay a little later, effectively having a longer winter holiday every year, and therefore laying fewer eggs in total over the year. So if we want to smooth out the highs and lows and compensate for this long-term slowdown, we can add new chickens to our flock every year. I love doing this. However, it does mean that at some point you'll probably need to integrate your new flock members with the older ladies. And it does intensify that whole problem of ever-increasing numbers of chickens at your place. You know, chicken math, you have been warned. An alternative strategy is to store some eggs when you're getting more than you need over summer for use in winter when your chickens are taking their holiday. Because your eggs start out being so fresh, straight from your very own chickens, you'll be surprised at how long clean, unwashed eggs will keep in your fridge. Some years ago I did a deliberate experiment about this. I now routinely store dozens of eggs in my fridge to use weeks or months later. Of course, I usually rotate them, using the oldest eggs first, which means that the eggs we're eating now in midwinter are only about 8 weeks old, which, by the way, could well be fresher than the freshest supermarket egg you can buy. But I happen to set aside separately the eggs from my leghorn because sometimes I have a use for eggs with white shells, and most of my chickens lay brown eggs. So I happen to have these eggs that are now very old indeed. These ones were laid at the beginning of February, which is 6 months ago. Here's some that laid a little bit later that I've just saved, and these ones were laid this week, a couple of days ago and a couple of days before that. So let's open them up and see what they look like. First of all, this egg that was just laid a couple of days ago. Naturally enough, as we expect, it's a beautiful fresh egg. The yolk is nice golden colour and sitting up high, and the white is nice and firm. So let's be brave and open up this egg that's 6 months old now. The 11th of February she laid this egg. Wow, the yolk's getting a little bit sticky and you can see it's not coming away from the inside of the shell very well, but golly, it looks like a perfect egg to me. The white is still fairly firm, although a little bit runny. And interestingly enough, the older egg, which she laid in the middle of summer, has actually got a more deeper orange yolk than the egg that she's laid in the middle of winter, where the yummy bugs and seeds are not quite as plentiful. But there you go, that certainly shows that you can store eggs for up to 6 months with no trouble at all. And they'd still be perfectly delicious to eat. Thank you, Pia. Finally, you can change the way you think about eggs. If eggs are naturally abundant in summer and scarce in winter, perhaps we can change our eating habits to be more in tune with nature. To some extent I do this. In summertime when eggs are plentiful, I use lots of eggs in omelettes, pies, frittata, scrambled eggs, egg sandwiches, homemade cakes and ice cream. In winter I tend towards homemade bread, soup, stews, curries and stir-fries that don't need eggs. Even my folder of my recipes for cookies is organised by how many eggs are needed per batch of cookies. So in summer I might make brownie cookies using 4 eggs, and in winter I make Anzac biscuits or shortbread which need no eggs at all. I think it's good for our bodies and our soul to eat seasonally, and our chickens can help us be more in tune with nature that way. I hope whatever season you're in at the moment, you're enjoying that and enjoying your chickens. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you next time.